Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Racing with Ryan podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Stevens. Got a good show for you. Happy to be back with you 2 weeks in a row at New Smyrna Speedway. We're getting the full show in. And this was a big one. This was one of the biggest family fun nights ever. And man, if Mother Nature didn't put it in jeopardy right at the get-go, I feel like we're very lucky to get this in. It was a show that we needed to get in. I don't know what they would have done if the rain hadn't stopped when it did. If you were there, as you know, it took us right up till about 5:15-ish to get the track dry. And then we had the driver's meeting. And then we had practice at 6 o'clock. So it was definitely one of those nights where things worked out to where we could get in most of the show, or all of the show, at a relatively respectable time after Mother Nature has really given us fits. After such a dry winter, and, a great World Series, pretty decent start to the season. Mother Nature's really given us fits and has been a part of many of the shows. I'm surprised at some of the shows that we've gotten in and disappointed with some of the ones that we were unable to get in. It's just been that kind of year. So to get the full show in and to get it done by, I think it was about 10:30 or so when we were done, I feel like that was a pretty good job by everybody. Obviously, we had to forgo some things. We had to change things around. We had practice at race time. There was a issue with the national anthem. It was definitely one of those weird nights at the races, but, I feel like that's what makes short track racing so special. It's not this huge production where everything starts at X time. It has to be over at X time. We just try to get the show going and give the fans and give the drivers what they came for. And somehow, some way, at the end of the day, that's what we were able to do. So that's what we're going to talk about on this week's episode. And we'll cover NASCAR at Sonoma. I'm going to be honest with you. Probably one of the more boring race weekends of the NASCAR schedule. It's just the way things played out. There's not a whole lot that I want to talk about, but I will cover it. We'll go over the points. We'll do the 16. We'll do all that fun stuff. But it just was kind of a race that happened. One of those ones that I watched Sunday evening as I was waiting for Peyton to get home, and was glad that I had it on record so that I could just watch it at my leisure, and was not surprised at all by the results. So we'll cover that at the end of the show. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of everything, first of all, thank you all for listening. And thank you to our sponsors as well, including Paramount Medical Billing, F&F Racing, Do All Lawn and Tree. I also thank the Splish and Splash Swim Program and Ken Copley as well. We're missing him on the track. I need to reach out to Ken and see where he's been the last couple of weeks. We have not seen him since the beginning of the season. So, but he is a full season sponsor, so we give him the props anyway. So thank you to everybody that supports the show. Thanks to everybody that listens. I know the season's been weird. But the the plays remain consistent, and I appreciate that. And I know you guys appreciate having something to listen to on your endeavors throughout the week. So that's what we'll give you here on this week's show. Let's head on over, hitting the coffee tonight, recording late, back on the late night schedule. This week at work is going to be crazy, so I won't have time to break away during the week to record. So got Peyton down to bed, and I'm going to try to power through this. I'm going to try to make it a quick show, but there's a lot to talk about. So heading over to the High Banks in New Smyrna, let's start with makeup feature number 1 for the Ashley Holmes Jacks Pro Trucks. I am on the New Smyrna website. We're going to go down the list. So we're going to talk trucks first. Boy, what a great turnout a couple weeks ago when there were 16 trucks. Only 10 made it back for the makeup race. We were missing Mike Gamache, Richard Griffiths, Patrick Menninga, Nolan Mesa, which I think is the biggest surprise, Timmy Todd, and Ross Francisco. Now, a couple of those drivers, Griffiths, Francisco, they were wrecked pretty badly. I think Mike Gamache did not make it back because I want to say, and I don't know this for sure, but I think Chad Pierce Motorsports was focused on the Sportsman over at Citrus County, so Mike was not able to make it. At least that's my rationale there. Not sure about Patrick Menninga. Timmy Todd was in the middle of that big wreck, as was Nolan Mesa, so maybe just not able to make it back for those reasons. The makeup race, though, restarted with 21 laps to go, and it took about 2 laps for George Gorham Jr. to get to the lead, and that was really all she wrote in this one. Gorham got out front, commanded the race, and it was a pretty straightforward race. You could tell that the trucks had it in their minds that they had 2 races to get through, and they were cognizant of that, took care of each other, and got through the first race with George Gorham Jr. to nobody's surprise, picking up the win. However, it was a great run for Becca Monopoly, who's been, she keeps saying, boy, if it wasn't for the M5, we'd be winning a lot of races. So Becca was a runner-up in race number 1. Nick Provost, the point leader, was third. Fourth for George Gorham, the third, who had his best run. Just overall, he is finally starting to get used to that truck. He's getting used to the track. I feel like George Gorham, the third, could be our next first-time winner. I think he and Nick Provost are going to duke it out for that. Grayson Greaves was 5th, JT Chastain 6th, 7th went to Chuck Hires, Dalton Smith was 8th, 9th was Brooke Ollie, Randy Kuhn was 10th, and Mike Gamache, I'm just reading down the list here, he was one of the DNS that did not make it back. So 10 trucks finished race number 1. Down to race number 2, 11 trucks would take the green. We had Cody Kaufman in the field for the first time since having his baby, so A, congratulations to Cody, and B, good to have him back on the speedway. Nice-looking race truck. Started on pole by random draw. Got shuffled back early in this one. The big story, though, was George Gorham Jr. starting out back in the race, going pretty much clean and green until, and that was the story. The race was pretty clean until about 2 to go. We had a spin by Randy Kuhn, who was at the back of the field. Just got loose and turned 4, spun it out, and Grayson Greaves had a huge lead at this point. It was looking like Greaves was going to win the race, barring any, mechanical problems from him or a mistake by him. Greaves had this one in the bag, but the caution came out when Randy Kuhn went around. We had a restart, which I was very much looking forward to. The track obviously had some weepers. It was a really narrow groove in turn 1 and 2. I was expecting them to go off into the corner, maybe not make it through the corner or wash up the track, maybe open the floodgates for the second row to come through. However, this race was pretty much settled on the restart. Gorham just got the best of Grayson Greaves on this one. That's the best I can put it. I went back and watched this on Speedway Video, and Grayson Greaves, he just got beat on the restart, and it was over before they got to turn 1. There was no drag race. There was no drama in the corner. Gorham got the lead coming off turn number 4 down to the stripe and took off to win his second race of the night. So George Gorham Jr. right now, he is the man to beat, and it's been obvious for the last 2 years now that truck is something else, and came from the back to win it. But this race was pretty straightforward until that late race caution, and then the restart just didn't really, I don't want to say it didn't deliver, but it didn't set up the drama, I think, the battle. I think Gorham still probably would have won it just based on his experience and how good that truck is, but it was over before they got back to the start-finish line, and George Gorham would go around the last 2 laps and win it easily. Nick Provost, the point leader, would sneak on through for second. Grayson Greaves got shuffled back to third. Becca Monopoly was 4th. JT Chastain 5th. 6th for George Gorham the third, so a good night overall for him. Dalton Smith 7th. 8th for Cody Kaufman. Chuck Hires 9th, Brooke Ollie 10th, and Randy Kuhn would round out your field for Pro Trucks in race number 2. Moving down the list, Super Stocks were in action. Well, they were there. I don't know how much action there was. Every now and then I drop some commentary in here, and I'm not picking on the Super Stocks. This is one of my favorite classes, but man, is it disappointing right now. The whole season's been 5-6 cars. Of course, the War on 44 brought out a couple extra, some guys threw the backup cars out there, and we got Tuminello out there for the first time in a while, but the Super Stocks just haven't been themselves for a while, and change is needed. And they had a meeting, and, I know right at the top of the meeting, the word on the street is that, hey, they could be going away. I don't want the Super Stocks to go away. Like, listen, I don't want a class. This is, every track needs a class like this. You need your street stock style class, your Monte Carlos, your Camaros, but boy, we got to get it figured out to make it not a 4 or 5 car show. I know the ones that show up are good, so we can still have a good race, but optically it's bad. A 5-car race is a lose-lose for everybody. So I don't want the class to go away, but definitely something needs to be done. I know they discussed a lot of things. I listened to some of the meeting before I had to take off. I don't know what the solution is other than make it cheaper to race. Even some of the big series and wheel and modified tour drivers are dropping off the tour. There's people talking about not being able to go next year to bigger tour races here in the South and up north just because of the cost of everything. And I get it. The track's got to make money. The driver's got to have money. Everybody's got to come out a winner, which isn't always possible, but there's got to be a solution. For a class like the Superstocks, it's like a $200 payout. It was never meant to be any more than just a step up from the Bombers. And now I would say the Superstocks are more or less the sportsmen of old. Like the whole idea of the sportsmen, it's almost like the ladder has been shifted up a rung with no support to hold the weight of every class. And that's the problem we're starting to see, and that's why things are starting to thin out in multiple classes that were once very sustainable, very fun, blue-collar classes, which is what the Superstocks are supposed to be, and it's a sad state right now, and I'm not going to beat around the bush and tell you that I'm not disappointed with it. When they have a good race, I'll get on here and say the race is good. This was not a good race. It's not by any fault of the drivers. I think the track was tough with the weepers. There wasn't many cars, so once it kind of got spread out, Bobby Holly started on pole, got a big lead. Tyler Prenesti did not get a good start. The best part of the race was watching Tyler Prenesti kind of battle his way back up there. He and George Spears had a good race for second, but the battle up front, which I thought Bobby Holly was kind of a sit and duck. I thought Spears was going to go up there and run him down, and then it became apparent that was not going to happen, and Tyler Prenesti made moves, got up to second, but he was not going to touch Bobby Holly. So at the end of the day, Bobby Holly picks up the win. Tyler Prenesti comes home second, George Spears third, Gage Spears fourth, and Don Duval would round out the 5-car field. In my opinion, whatever rules they decide to go with, I think a tire rule is necessary in our Superstock classes, our sportsman classes, hell, even the Pro Late models. I would say anybody that's running the Hoosier tires, we need a rule, a tire rule. You get X amount of cents for the season. The tire guy will still make his money, but it'd be nice to see everybody kind of on an equal playing field. And, if you don't show up for the first race of the season, you got to run scuffs. Somebody's just got to be in charge of, how the tire rule works and keep it level. If you miss a race, you're down a set or whatever, But we just need a way to keep costs down and make the gap from competitive to being there less. I'm not saying, the guy that doesn't do their homework needs to come show up and win every week. I'm just saying, like, if there was a way to make more people competitive to where they can show up and feel like they have a shot without having to outspend the Joneses. Because right now, like in the Superstocks, you've got 5 guys that are the Joneses and everybody else can't hang on. So we just need something like that to kind of even things out and make it more appealing for, those pure stocks that are out there to come participate. Even not all the time, but sometimes. Something needs to change because that is the Superstocks are not going to sustain themselves that way. All right, Bomber A's. They had double features. A little disappointing. Only 7 would make it back for the makeup feature. The first race was kind of a weird one. I feel like the track was kind of slick. It was hot still. The weepers were pretty persistent during this one. Not much to really talk about. I think the biggest surprise, Eddie Evans Jr. was all over the place and off the pace. I'm not sure what's happened to him. He looked pretty strong at the beginning of the season. I think he's going to be able to hang on to win Rookie of the Year, but man, it was a rough Saturday for Eddie Evans Jr. Preston Obremski had problems. He would actually finish last in this race. Good battle up front. Brandon Monroe and Stephen Brown were kind of duking it out for the win, and at the end of it, Stephen Brown would pick up the win in race number 1. Brandon Monroe was second. Eddie Evans was third. Stephen DeVilla was fourth. Fifth for Mike Austin, who faded late. Eddie Evans Jr. sixth, and then Preston Obremski in seventh. But in feature 2, we had a couple of cars to add to the field. We had 10. So we added Larry Masters, we added Rob Coppinger, and we added Robert Williams to the field. So it looked a little more it looked better. Okay, it looked better. But the race was still weird. Timing and scoring was working, but the names were not in there, so it kind of made everything up front look kind of weird. But nobody was breaking out. They were close. There was a couple of close calls, but the drivers were, I don't know. I just feel like the track was rough with the weepers and all the rain that we've had washing the rubber off. It was just, and it's hot, so it's more slick. You're not going to get those great lap times when the track is like that. So the drivers were kind of able in a way to go all out, and the fast cars showed up, and Preston Obremski was able to get back out there from his mechanical problems in race 1 and come out and win race number 2. He and Brandon Monroe, another great battle. Monroe got the lead late as they were duking it out and trying not to break out, but Obremski was able to get the lead back with 1 or 2 to go and hang on to get the win. Brandon Monroe was second. Steven Davila was third. Larry Masters had a good run. That 76 car, the former Richard Monroe car, now Larry Masters has it, and gave it a good run in fourth. Mike Austin was fifth. Sixth for Eddie Evans. Stephen Brown was seventh. Rob Coppinger in the 31 was eighth. Eddie Evans Jr., again, a rough night for Eddie. I'm not sure if it's car or I'm not sure what the problem is there, but that does not look like the Eddie Evans, the up-and-coming Eddie Evans Jr. that we saw at the beginning of the year. And Robert Williams in the 42 would round out the field. That car had a weird setup to it. That thing was leaning over on the left front. It looked like it was, if you pushed it on the right side, standing still, it might tip over. So, honestly, 2 weird Bomber A races. They didn't have the typical Bomber A drama. Not a lot of breakouts, not a whole lot of back to front. My thing, I enjoy the 24-second rule for what it's supposed to be doing, but as somebody who's not quite in tune with racing put it to me, it's like even I can tell, like the close racing, if you will, is artificial. And I feel like we've gotten to the point where it just looks like we're running fake restrictor plates out there. It's not that the cars can't go any faster; it's they're not allowed to. I feel like something needs to be done to just make the rules to the point where we're not making them faster, but the guys can still go all out. And that takes tech, and that takes rules, and that takes, I don't know how you rein it back in after basically saying there are no rules, just don't go faster than 24 seconds. And I feel like we've opened Pandora's box, and I don't know how to rein it back in, but I'm definitely feeling the vibes that everybody else is that, something else could be worked on to help that division right now. Still love the class, and just like I said in my commentary on the modifieds, I love the modifieds. Don't love 8 cars. Don't love making a big deal over a class that's just not showing up and hasn't been for years. What I will make a big deal of, though, is the Stephen Smith Incorporated Bomber Bees, who put on, boy, what a way to start the program. We got started with the regular races, and the Bomber Bees had a race of all time. We were actually getting people sending us messages to the Facebook page saying, these guys need a time limit. This is ridiculous. People are just spinning out and stopping on track. And I think that one thing people don't always understand is that a lot of times if you spin out a stock car, there are safety features. It'll go into limp mode. If you stall it, it's not like you fire it right up and go instantly. And I think that's something we lose sight of a lot of times. We're like, man, that guy could have gotten going. And then, as the field comes by and the yellow comes out, they get going again. I used to think that way. And I remember being at the booth in Auburndale, and I kind of said that. And Steve was up there. He's, Steve races street stocks. And he goes, yeah, that's what it looks like. But man, if you spin one of these out and it has to reset everything, it takes a minute to fire back up. I know when you hop in your passenger car to go to work in the morning, you get in, you buckle your seatbelt. When you get the ignition on, you don't just go flying down the street and peel out, Obviously, totally different circumstances, but this race took a while. There was some action, and I'm glad that it was up at the top of the card because it provided enough action to where even the people that maybe had to leave early in the night got to see something. Maybe it wasn't the race they wanted to see, but they got to see some action. We had Tim Nicholas spinning out on the front stretch. We had a wild wreck with Zachary Curtis and Dustin Higdon. They got together the back of the field, and they both went for a spin. Curtis went down into the water, and this was still early in the day where we had quite the pond in the infield in turn number 4. And I actually reached out to Zach Curtis, and because I wanted to see what happened, because he did not finish the race. Zach Curtis, usually when he's here, he's first. He was not on this night. I actually reached out to him earlier today, and I just said, what the heck happened to your car Saturday? And he sent me a picture and said, bent tie rod when he and Dustin got into it on the front straightaway. And it's like, no idea how I made it back in front. The wheel was so bent. Then he said, guess after the yellow, whatever got wet from the hit, we got waterlogged basically. Car went into limp mode and wouldn't go anymore. And that's what it looked like to me, that it went into limp mode and it wouldn't kind of cycle out of limp mode. But I'm not like a super technical car guy. I'm not dumb, like I understand how a car goes. I can't fix them when they don't go. But, when he said it kind of, it's from the water, I had wondered if it didn't flood something, and that is evidently what happened. So when Zach Curtis went for that big slide down the front straightaway with Dustin Higdon, it was wild to watch, and both those guys are wheelmen, so they did a great job keeping their cars out of the wall and not completely destroying their cars. But Curtis pretty much got taken out by the water. I think even with the bent tie rod, he probably still would have been in contention, because it looked to me like Wes Railing had a fast car, but it did not handle. I don't think Wes wins that race if Zach Curtis doesn't fall out. Higdon gave it a great run. Tim Nicholas, boy, he keeps getting close. I think Larry Masters would have won this race if he didn't get a flat tire early. He didn't have anybody to help get a tire on it to get back into the race, which was a shame because he was out on lap 1. There was an incident in lap 1. I can't remember exactly what happened, but Larry Masters was out early. I think he's got a fast car. I think he's knocking on the door of both Bomber A's and Bomber B's now. We got some fireworks going off. Coffee break. This was an absolutely wild race. A couple times, Justin Spears Jr. would get down. He would get up towards the front of the field, and then he'd spin out, cause a big melee. Poor Justin Phillips. It looked like for a minute he was going to win this race, and he got caught up in a restart wreck, and he would go on a grinding crash down the back straightaway. There was just, I think everybody in the field, minus Wes Railing, Kenny Roth, and Nico Garano got some kind of damage. Nico faded late. He got mechanical issues. This Bomber B race was wild. This is one I can't sit here and do a recap justice. Like, go back and watch all the action on Speedway video. It's right at the beginning of the actual program. So when the dust settled or the smoke settled or the water receded, Wes Railing got his first Bomber B win. Pretty cool to see. Dustin Higdon would battle back for second. Third would be Skinny Roth, who coincidentally is driving Wes Railing's old car. Good for Skinny. He kind of held his own and just stayed out back and kind of let the carnage all happen, and then drove his way up front, and another podium finish for Kenny. Good day for him, running a limited schedule this year. Tim Nicholas battled back from a spin early to finish 4th. 5th was Justin Spears, despite all of his shenanigans. He was involved in a couple dust-ups. He was 5th. 6th for Randy Straley, who's actually up in the points mix. We'll look at the points in a minute. Cheyenne Woodman, one of the leading rookies, was 7th. 8th for Justin Phillips. Spencer Dean was 9th. 10th for Zachary Curtis. Nico Garano 11th, and Larry Masters would round out your field in the wildest Bomber B race of all time. Let's see. Boy, they are setting the fireworks off out there a little early. It's only, it's not even July yet out there. My goodness. Mod Minis. Nice field of 8 cars. Respect to the Mod Minis. I've had my commentary on this class. The previous iteration of the class was not fun. This one is fun. We've got different people competing. We've got different names in the mix. We don't have just one car coming out here and smoking the field with, one of the best drivers in Florida, in the best car in Florida. So it was a fun race. It was a fine race. Brandon Davis led for a little while early, driver making the trip over from Lakeland. Faded late, and Clint Foley in the 14 car. That 14 is fast, and Clint Foley drove it to his second win of the season. Good to see Brad Blanton back up near the front. He brought the old black number 17 out for the first time in quite a long time. He was in the 22, the old John DeGeorge machine a couple weeks ago. That was a rough race for Brad Blanton, but he redeems himself tonight, finishes in the runner-up spot, which is good to see the veteran having a good run. Brandon Davis would finish third, but boy, did he have a moment coming to the checkered flag off turn 4. He would blow the motor right in front of Brad Blanton, by the way. Brad Blanton would get a new paint job from the milkshake that was made out of the hood of the 710 machine when it blew the motor. Davis would coast across in third. Mark Brote fourth. Ben Hoff was fifth. Sixth for Jamie Dixon. Good to see that car back out. Cody Tabor was seventh. And Ernie Winton would round out the field. He had mechanical problems. And for some reason, the ground pounder results are not on here. I am not sure why. Shelley is in charge of scoring and has been putting up the results, and I guess did not do the ground pounders. They're probably sitting behind they probably just haven't been saved. I can probably pop in and do that tomorrow. But Art Koonsman, of course, did Art Koonsman things. He won the stock car portion of both events. Frank Pelkey won the sportsman for both events. And let's see, I think the first modified race was was it Robert Piccolo who won? And then Toby Smith won the second one. So I think that those were your winners for the ground pounders, who brought out, respect to the ground pounders. They brought out good fields for their double features, fun cars to look at. Their races were fine. They didn't, a lot of people say, oh, the ground pounders, they just oil down the track. Well, the Mod Minis did a better job oiling down the track than the ground pounders. And honestly, that rhetoric doesn't do it for me, because we've seen super lates blow a motor and oil down the whole track. Parts and pieces can blow at any time in any division. Yes, the ground pounders, they're older cars, but when I tell you those guys do a lot of work to make those cars legitimate and run well, they really do. So props to them. They're a fun class to have on the schedule. Hey, their races, they're not going to be ones that are barn burners per se, but those guys are having a blast, and it's a good part of the show. And, if you feel like it's a time to go down to the concession stand, well, hey, sometimes you miss some big moments out of those guys, and they're having a good time, and they deserve to be out there. So I'm glad they got their chance to get their double features in, and props to that division for always bringing double-digit car counts no matter what. So that was our family fun night. Like I said, it was a go, go, go kind of night. Oh, the Audi won the spectator races, which were fun, but I was told no interviews, stay in the tower, keep the show moving. With the rain that came through and all the features we had to get through, it was going to be a late night regardless. I think if it was a normal night, like let's say we didn't have rain, we didn't have restrictions, we were probably there close to 1:00 in the morning, realistically. And I'm glad we weren't. I'm not 28 anymore. I'm almost 38. Not to make excuses and to say I wouldn't do what I need to do, and not to say that still I was not exhausted the next day. Anyone that's done any kind of live work, radio, announcing, like it is a challenge on your brain to be on for 4.5, 5 hours. You're constantly, your gears are constantly spinning. Your brain is constantly processing what's going on. You have to tell the story. You have to keep the fans interested as long as possible. You got to sell hot dogs and hamburgers and 50-50 raffle tickets, and think about, you throw some predictions out there, tell people what to look for. It's not something that you can do half-ass. So when I tell you, even though I didn't have to walk up and down the grandstands, 9 times for feature stuff and extracurriculars, I was still worn out the next day. But part of me appreciates that next day worn out, because I feel like I've done something, and love what I do, and very privileged to be able to call the races here at New Smyrna. And I'll end the New Smyrna portion with reiterating how glad I am we got this show in, how important it was to get this show in. I don't know what they would have done if the rain had continued. My gripe with it, though, and I get it, when it starts raining around, and I'll tell you, when I got to the track around 4:00, it was pouring rain. The infield was flooded. The track had water on it. Not just like rain. I mean, like the infield grass had flooded up to the racetrack. It was a mess in 3 and 4. The parking lot was a mess, and I wore white shoes because my current black shoes are not waterproof at the moment. It was rough. So the fact that we even got the show in is a miracle, I think. But the minute it rains like that and starts affecting practice, it throws the whole event into a tizzy. Nothing is on schedule. When they came back for the driver's meeting, I was under the impression at 6 o'clock we were going racing. We had so much to do. And I'm like, well, that stinks that people didn't get practice, but sometimes that's how it goes. I mean, in my opinion, when it's race time, it's race time. Obviously, if you got like super late models or something for the Governor's Cup, they got to get some practice in, they got to qualify. You make some concessions there, but on a night like this, man, you got these people. Thankfully, we had a good crowd. I was a little bit worried that the crowd was going to be rough around a $5 night, but it was a good crowd. I mean, it wasn't sold out by any means, but all things considered, with the rain all the way up until 5 o'clock and our past with rainouts, it's real easy for people to say, oh, there's no way they're racing. And I think that's why a few people sat at home, fans and drivers alike. My biggest gripe, though, was practicing at 6 o'clock. Like, if we were going to do practice, the hell with the driver's meeting. We should have done practice the minute the track was dry. We should have practiced. We shouldn't have waited till 6 o'clock. We shouldn't have put a time on it. If we were going to do practice, it's the minute the track is dry, we need to be practicing. If we have to get practice in, if we have to get your precious practice in, it should be the minute the track is dry. You have a quick driver's meeting. And honestly, on a show like this, it should be hey, the race director is here. If you're uncertain with something, come see him for 2 minutes and let's race. That's the one thing that disappointed me. 6 o'clock practice was rough because it was almost like we should just run heat races. You know what I mean? We basically ran heat races that didn't count for anything. 2 mod minis came out to practice. That was a waste of time. And then the other thing that kind of was weird was right after that, I was told, okay, go into opening ceremonies and let's race. So we prayed. I played the national anthem, and then I got yelled at because we had a guitar player. I was told to do the national anthem and go. We were in go mode, and that's what I did. Sorry to the person who was supposed to do the national anthem, but it was a weird night, and we'll get you back some other time. But did not like practicing at 6 o'clock. Didn't like that, we couldn't throw in the Bombers' A's and B's out there to work the track in and get them some on-track time. And, that was my gripe. I get it. You need some laps. I would have liked better. I would have liked better if we did like dirt track hot laps, like roll them out, 2 laps in, and that's it. Just make sure the oil lines are tight and your car turns. Other than that, man, we were just wasting time. But anyways, that's my gripe on a rainy day. I'll take it. We got the whole show in. We had some fun, got some highlights, and got the races in. So real quick before we pop over to wine country, talk about the racing at Sonoma, which honestly I don't have much to say about the races this weekend, but I do want to touch on it, and I want to look at the points because we've had some shuffling, but I also want to look at the points from New Smyrna as we've gotten a few more races in. I'll pull that up here. My computer is on its last legs. I am to the point now where I'm going to be needing a new one very, very soon. So what races? We can Ashley Holmes Jack's trucks. All right, so in the pro trucks after the double features, let me just make sure the dates are up to date. 627, yes they are. Nick Provost with a comfortable 16-point lead on Grayson Greaves. Becca Monopoly third, 19 points back. We have Chuck Hires and Dalton Smith rounding up the top 5. Dalton Smith almost a race off. Leading rookie right now is Brooke Ollie in the 9. So Nick Provost hasn't won a race yet, but looking strong in the points. Superstocks raced. We've got a tight battle here, and it's going to be tight all season long just based on the car counts. Tyler Prenesti still hanging on to a 1-point lead over Bobby Holly in the 56, and George Spears just 4 points back. Honestly, that championship battle will be fun to watch. I know there's not going to be many cars for much of the season, but that championship battle is going to be very, very fun to watch. Gage Spears says he's a rookie. He is not a rookie. I need to go fix that. If they register and click the rookie box, it makes us have to do housekeeping. I don't think we really have a true rookie in that class this year. Let's see. Bomber A's. Stephen Brown hanging on to a nice 10-point lead over Eddie Evans, but that's still very close, and only 11 back is Mike Austin. So definitely close there. Eddie Evans Jr., leading Rookie of the Year contender, and Steven Davila in 5th. So interesting stuff there. Bomber Bees. This is interesting. This class has been kind of hit or miss with the drivers that show up. Tim Nicholas is the point leader by 50 over Randy Straley and 64 over Larry Masters. Zach Curtis, 65 points out, and he's missed a race. Dustin Higdon in 5th in points, 82 points out. So the championship race, it's not a good one, but the Bomber Bees are fun to watch. So we'll just kind of take those event by event. And Cheyenne Woodman is your leading rookie there. Ground Pounders, they do their own points. I'm not really too worried about that. But Art Koonsman definitely leading his points, and Toby Smith leading his points, and Frank Pelkey leading his points, and that's really all that matters there. Mon Minis, 1 point lead for Mark Brodt over Brad Blanton in the championship. They're a family fun night exclusive class. That battle is going to be fun to watch. Ben Hoff, Ernie Winton, and Cody Tabor, your top 5, with Ben Hoff, your leading rookie. And that's it for the points. We are off this weekend for the 4th of July holiday, so enjoy some time with your family. I will be doing the same. Definitely looking forward to just enjoying some sunshine and maybe some outside time and fireworks with the family this weekend. Nothing crazy on the schedule, but going to enjoy every moment of family time this weekend as we celebrate our 250th birthday as country. So we'll be patriotic and have a good time. So I hope you guys do as well. No racing this weekend, but we'll be back at it in 2 weeks with the Shark Bite Pro Late Model 60, which should be fun. Shark Bite's always a fun event, so we'll have that going on in 2 weeks. All right, let's pop on over to the NASCAR side of things. We'll round out the show. Let me start with the Xfinity race. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not watch this race in full. I watched the highlight Sunday morning before heading off to church, grabbed a cup of coffee, watched a 15-minute highlight reel, and ran out the door. Shane Van Gisbergen got the win over Connor Zilic in that one, and literally that is all I've got. The highlights there weren't too many of them. I know Ross Chastain blew a motor. That sucked. That was it. And then on Sunday, I didn't really have highest of expectations for the Cup race. Yeah, you see, that's how the Cup race was. It wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't like a race where I was like, oh, that was a bad race. It just happened. It was a standard race at Sonoma, which typically only has a handful of lead changes, only a couple of cautions, because when a car does spin out, there's plenty of runoff room, so they can just, and the track is so big, they can get going, and you don't really have to worry about much. And really the only caution was for a dust up going up the hill with some debris that fell on the racetrack, and everything else was stage cautions. There was some strategy mix-up. You didn't know who was going to stay out for the stages and who was going to capitalize on points. And interestingly enough, Ty Gibbs would stay out and win both stages and finish 3rd in the race. So a good point stay for Ty Gibbs. He's 4th in points, I believe I heard somebody say. We will check out the point standings in the next edition of the 16 here in a few. But the race was pretty standard. Like, Ty Gibbs led for a bit, won the stages. SVG flipped the stages, so that means he pitted and was pretty much in control once all the pit cycles came around and the stages finished up. SVG, maybe not his best car, but the best driver definitely prevailed in this one. Chase Briscoe did chase him down late and got within a few car lengths of him with 2 or 3 laps to go and started overdriving the car, if you ask me. And SVG was able to hang on, get a second win of the season. And we're done with road courses. So if SVG gets another win this year, he's going to have to do it on an oval, and I think people will be pretty impressed. I mean, he's an impressive road course racer. They're one of the best, if not the best, road course racer NASCAR's ever seen. But if he wins on an oval, like, it's going to be a big deal. I've heard the phrase SVG fatigue going out over social media just because he wins most of the road course races now, but that's his specialty. It was like Dale Jr. I had Dale Jr. fatigue back in the day because he'd win every race at Daytona and Talladega for like 5 years. And, I didn't dislike Dale Jr., but it made me get bored of him. I loved the plate races, and I would get bored of the same guy always being near victory lane, if not winning the race. So I get that aspect of it. So it's not like when SVG won Chicago that first year, it was crazy and unexpected. Now it's expected. So when he does win, it's just like, yeah, on to the next one. But still, I mean, Shane Van Gisbergen is such a likable guy. We get he's a Kiwi, so you get a little international flair when he picks up the win, and it's just something different. And he's so likable that it's hard to hate on it. But it wasn't like, oh, we got a surprise winner. This was a very straightforward road course race. And as I mentioned, SVG with the W is second of the year. I can't tell you how many times I pick somebody in 36 for 36. They have a terrible week the week I pick them, and then they go win the next week. That's happened 2 or 3 times this year. Obviously, I had SVG last week, and should have flip-flopped he and AJ Allmendinger this week because Dinger didn't do me too well this week. That's the way it goes. So SVG, your winner. As I mentioned, Chase Briscoe was chasing him down. Couldn't get to him, though. Finished second. Let's see. Ty Gibbs finished third. Got a couple of stage wins, so a great run for him. Kyle Larson, another top 5. Finished fourth, led a couple laps in a pit cycle, I believe, but wasn't really a threat to win, but he's hanging around. He's knocking on the door. I feel like he's going to break that winless streak here pretty soon. Christopher Bell, how about a gutsy performance for Bell? Finished second in both stages and 5th in the race with a broken wrist at a road course where you're turning left and right. So impressive, gutsy performance. Much needed good points day for Christopher Bell. Ryan Blaney was 6th. 7th was Connor Zilic. Ryan Priest, you want to talk about gutsy. How about this old short tracker from the Northeast? An 8th place finish on a road course. Very impressive. Michael McDowell in 9th. Alex Bowman with a much-needed top 10 run. Carson Hocevar, 11th. I'll give you some of the notables here. William Byron, 12th. Ross Chastain, another decent day in 14th. AJ Allmendinger, I talked about him. He was my pick for 36 for 36. He would get 16th. Chase Elliott spun out in the middle portion of the race, didn't hit anything, didn't even get a caution for his spin, would finish mid-pack in 17th. Bubba Wallace had speed, but hit the wall in qualifying and would finish in 22nd. Joey Logano, 24th. Eric Jones, 23rd. A couple of the bubble drivers. Denny Hamlin, we got to talk about him. He spun out, got the splitter kind of caved in, so he had a bad day, was able to manage a 26th place finish. You would think, man, he probably lost a lot of points to Tyler Reddick, huh? But if you didn't watch the race, you're not paying attention to NASCAR. Well, he is the new point leader because Tyler Reddick finished dead last with a power steering issue. Pretty crazy. Hamlin finishes 26th and now leads the points by 1. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Other notables here, Daniel Suarez, rough day, 31st for a driver who got his first career win at Sonoma and has been having a good year. Tyler Reddick, 36. We talked about him. 4 laps down, power steering issues, finished dead last. So, yeah, that was Sonoma. That's really all I have to say. 8 lead changes, 3 cautions. This is one of the races that it happens. It goes in the scorecard, and not many people will look back at it in the years to come, unless you're a big SVG fan. So, looking forward to Sonoma this weekend, though. Chicago this weekend. Going back to Chicagoland Speedway, the 1.5-mile oval. I think it's going to be a race kind of like Nashville. We'll see some action. We'll see some passing, maybe some drama. I know a lot of people are very excited about returning to Chicagoland Speedway, even though it sounds like this may be a one and done as they may go back to the street course next year. I kind of hope, I hope it's a good showing at Chicagoland, and I hope we come back because I like having those traditional ovals on the schedule. So definitely looking forward to that next week. Let me check the standings here. We'll take a look at Xfinity too. Goodness gracious, this NASCAR website is very obnoxious if you have an ad blocker. All right, so Denny Hamlin, your new point leader by just 1 point. It's going to be a fun battle. Let's see, we are 18 races in, so that means there are 8 races left before the chase begins. So 8 races left, so he's going to be the number 1 seed going into the final 10. Man, yeah, buckle in. It's going to be very entertaining. Hamlin up 1 on Reddick. 104 points back is Ryan Blaney in 3rd. Ty Gibbs, like I said, up to 4th. Leapfrogs Kyle Larson, who goes back to 5th. Chase Elliott is 6th. Chris Buescher 7th. Carson Hocevar up 1 as he jumps his teammate Daniel Suarez. So Hocevar 8th, Suarez down to 9th. Christopher Bell, like I said, a much-needed good run. Up 2 spots on the points back into the top 10. Chase Briscoe, despite finishing 2nd, he didn't get any stage points, I don't believe. So he actually falls a spot because Christopher Bell almost maxed out his points with the stages. So Briscoe down to 11th. William Byron up 1 to 12th. Bubba Wallace, a tough day, down 2 spots to 13th again. But over the cut line, he's got 43 points on Cindric, who's 16th. So still some cushion there, but he cannot keep having these bad weekends with fast cars. Shane Van Gisbergen with his second win of the season, up to 14th in points, +3. So right now he is to the good on Cindric by 24, but I guess I got to look at 17. So on Eric Jones, 25 plus 10 is 35. He's got 36 points. 36 points on Eric Jones. You take away his 2 wins, he's only up 6 points. So that's kind of how you got to look at it, because he's likely not going to win another race for the season unless he lucks out at like Daytona or Atlanta or Talladega, gets a break on the final lap or gets a good push or something, which could happen. I mean, anybody in the right situation can win those races. So I can't say you can't win another race, but is unlikely to based on his specialties. But hey, he's in there for now. If he can hold on, he holds on, but I don't think he's going to. Ryan Preece with that good run, back to 15th in points, up 1 point on Austin Cindric for the bubble, and up, 13 points on Eric Jones, who's 17th. And then Austin Cindric down 1 spot to 16th. He is on the bubble, and up 12 points on Eric Jones, who road course race for Eric Jones wasn't going to be a good day. We'll see if that team finds the speed again. 1.5 mile track coming up this weekend in Chicagoland. I feel like Eric Jones could get back on the right plane here this week. So Jones, 17th, 12 points out of the chase. Brad Keselowski, 18th, AJ Allmendinger, 19th, and Joey Logano down 2 to 20th. Boy, Joey Logano. We're talking about him maybe in the danger zone. He's 31 points out. I think anybody in the top 21. I think Michael McDowell still with an outside chance because he's 32 points out. Ross Chastain, though, in 22nd, 356 to 4. Yeah, I think from Ross Chastain down, 22nd on down in points, you guys are in the danger zone. Everybody else, you still have a fighting chance. So Logano, McDowell, Allmendinger string together some good runs. They're fighting. I think Chastain, Smith, Stenhouse, Herbst, Gilliland, Nemechek, Dillon, Bowman for sure. Great, eliminate Bowman, eliminate Gregson, Barry, Custer, Ty Dillon, Connor Zillage. They're not making it. So that's a look at the 16 and more for the Cup Series. Real quick, let's head over to the Xfinity Series, as they've had quite a number of races this year. They will lock in the top 12 to advance to the championship battle. And right now, Justin Allgaier with a 207-point lead on Jesse Love. Looking good for that number 1 seed. Corey Day is 3rd, having a great rookie season. Sheldon Creed 4th. Austin Hill 5th. Carson Kvapil bouncing between the 1 and 91 this year, 6th in points. Sammy Smith is 7th. Brandon Jones is 8th. I feel like those guys are pretty solid for a chase run. And Parker Retzlaff's 9th. Sam Mayer 10th. Brent Cruz, who didn't get to run all the races because he didn't turn 18 until earlier this year, he is 11th and 12th right now. The final spot is Taylor Gray, and Gray has 492 points. He's up 20 on William Sawalich, and Roger Carruth has dropped out of the playoffs. So Sawalich, Carruth, Sieg, Ryan Sieg, that is, Anthony Alfredo in the bubble zone. I think everybody from about Dean Thompson on down. Good luck. See you next year. Go out and do the best you can. Yep. So that's a look at the Xfinity Series standings. I mean, I think it comes down to Allgaier, Love, Creed, Day. I mean, I think those are your championship battlers right there. I don't think there's going to be many surprises. So let's look at the points. Let me pop on over to the Racing with Ryan Fantasy League real quick, see how we did. I'm sure we all had SVG. But let's take a look at the fantasy, and then we'll get on out of here. Again, thank you all for coming along, being part of the show. It's been a fun one. A lot of stuff to digest. Hopefully I did a good job bringing all of it to you. So let's see. Oh, my God, this ad blocker stuff. No, I'm not disabling my ad blocker on NASCAR.com. All right. Standings. Results. No, that's the wrong button. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. League, here we go. Every time I go to a new screen, it tells me about it. I have an ad blocker on. Yes, I do, NASCAR.com. Okay. Standings for Sonoma. Oh, not a bad weekend for me. I was 4th. 76 Motorsports picking up the big win on Obbs Trackhouse, who continues to do very well. Obbs was 2nd. 3rd was Bob's Fords. I was 4th this week with 235. I'll take it. It's been a struggle for me. Big Willie 5th. 6th was 8 Ball Racing, lost Highway Sim Racing 7th, tied with Zach's Dodge. 9th was Staffordshire Motorsports in top 10. John Gross, Bomber 93. Would round out our top 10 there. And let me check the overall standings if I can get back to there. Here we go. Abs Trackhouse still leading the points by, oh my gosh, almost 120 points over Bob's Fords. Cole Trickle Jr. 3rd, 8 Ball Racing 4th, 5th for Zach's Dodge, Staffordshire Motorsports 6th. I am 7th, ahead of 76 Motorsports, Bomber 93, and Richie Petty Jr., our top 10. So, all in all, not a bad weekend. I'll tell you my roster here from last week. I had Denny Hamlin, which I wasted one there for sure. No, that can't be right. Oh, no. You know what? Scratch that. I've set my team for Chicago. So, there, I gave away a secret. I had SVG. I had Ty Gibbs. I think I had AJ Allmendinger. I think I had McDowell. I tried to play the road course guys. I need to use them up, right? So, yes, I've set my roster for Chicago, which I did not pick Denny Hamlin last week. I would not have finished 4th. So, anyways, I'm pretty sure a lot of you are going to pick Denny Hamlin this week. He's been very strong in the 1.5 mile tracks. I feel like every 1.5 mile track, we're probably going to have him from here on out. The Toyota's going to be fast this week. You could probably pick 3 or 4 Toyotas and feel pretty good about your lineup. Maybe a Hendrick car. I don't know. I think Toyota wins this weekend. I don't think there's any other pick. The Fords have not been good. 1.5 miles. So obviously, we haven't been here in a while. We haven't raced Chicago in the next gen car. So some unknowns. But at this point in the game, the Toyotas have it figured out. I think Reddick will be quick. I think Bubba could be quick this weekend. I also think little maybe wild card advice here. I think Kyle Larson could be on the verge of breaking that winless streak, as I mentioned earlier. So he might be worth putting in your lineup this week and maybe take a risk on somebody in your garage, swap out. If I feel like we're going to get some wrecks this weekend. I feel like at least one of the top contenders late in the race will be taken out with some kind of wreck, whether it be a spin or contact or something. So we'll keep our eye on that. It should be fun. I'm looking forward to this weekend. I love the 1.5 mile tracks with this car, even though, sometimes Las Vegas isn't always that exciting, but I still look forward to the 1.5 miles. I feel like this car needs speed and it needs multiple grooves. When we don't have that, the races are usually lackluster. I think we're going to have plenty of that here this weekend in Chicago, so very much looking forward to that. Like I said, no racing at New Smyrna, so likely we'll be back with a show next week, even if it's a quick 30-minute rundown of the race in Chicago. So please enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Be safe. Take care of each other. If you are headed to the races, I don't even know. I think Showtime is racing on the 4th. Other than that, I don't know what's in the game or what's even going on around town. So support your local tracks, or if you're on vacation, go find a track. Have a good weekend and come back next week. Thanks to our sponsors, Do All Lawn and Tree, Splish and Splash Swim Program, Paramount Medical Billing, F&F Racing, and Ken Copley, and all of our listeners as well. Thank you guys so very much. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Racing with Ryan podcast. Until then, support your local short tracks and vroom vroom on.